Is the federal government considering any more help for Canadians? Randy Boissonnault is Associate Minister of Finance. He's in Edmonton. Hi, Minister. Good to have you back on the program.
Thanks, Vashi. Happy to be here.
I know the Department of Finance has experts who analyze the numbers and the trends all the time. Are they telling you and your government that they believe inflation has peaked?
Well, I can tell you that the numbers that came out today tell, part of a good story, and it's good to see the deceleration in the rise of the consumer price index. So 7.6, definitely better than 8.1. I'm sure you're going to have other experts on the program that are going to tell you what this means and what the prognostication is. But what I can tell you is that we're focused on affordability for Canadians, and we gave the Bank of Canada the mandate, renewed mandate in December to tackle inflation, get it to between 0 and 2%. They got a 5-year mandate to do that, and that's the responsibility of the Bank of Canada. Our responsibility is to make sure that we have the backs of Canadians.
And certainly it's on that subject that I do have a number of questions for you on the exact measures you're taking. But I ask about prognostication to try and get a sense from our viewers about what kind of parameters your government believes it's working under. Do you, for example, think inflation will continue to decelerate, although prices will still be high, that it will continue to decelerate, or will you be working under the idea that it could continue going up? Because I think that will inform what kind of policies you pursue, and those policies very directly impact Canadians who are watching right now.
Yeah, I think it's always harder to predict than it is to take a look at the numbers in the day and say, here's what happened. But I can tell you that what we do know, and this is, from my role as Associate Minister of Finance, the inflationary cycle that we're seeing is around the world. There's no government in the world, there's no country in the world that has inflation under 2% right now. And it's three things, Vashi. It's the illegal war against Ukraine by Russia that drove up energy prices. It's the snarled supply chains that still really haven't come back since the pandemic, and the zero COVID policy by China, which for some weeks and months at a time have closed major ports of the world, driving up goods and prices. And so that is literally a global phenomenon. Our job is to make sure as government that we have a made in Canada solution. And that's why the $8.9 billion inside a responsible fiscal frame is there to make sure that we put more money in the pockets of Canadians.
I take from that your government isn't sure whether or not it's peaked. Is that accurate?
Well, look, we're going to know if it's peaked when we see 2 or 3 more months of data. And so one data point doesn't a trend make. And so we're going to keep watching this. We're going to monitor this carefully. But look, I know this is tough on Canadians. I see the rise in prices at the grocery store. I've seen the rises of the prices at the pumps. We've seen that come down slightly. But look, we're in this to support Canadians, whatever the data tells us. And it's our job to make sure that we have a fiscal framework. We've got a debt to GDP ratio that's going to continue to go down. And we're going to make sure that we have a responsible fiscal framework moving forward as well.
Okay, it's on those measures that I want to ask you now
on
behalf of Canadians a little bit more about that, because you are right to point out that, yes, it's decelerating, but it's still very high, right? The amount we're paying over last year in all areas has gone up. It just started going down a little bit where gas is concerned. A number of the measures that your government talks about, for example, the Canada Child Benefit, the GST rebate, they are indexed to inflation. But for people who are suffering from those prices and having to pay them right now, they're indexed to last year's inflation. So the rebate, for example, you get an extra $7 this year. How is that actually going to help Canadians who are struggling right now?
So if we take a look at the $8.9 billion that we put in the window for the affordability plan, the point of indexing payments like OAS and GIS, the GST rebate, the Canada Child Benefit, is to make sure that that money, that lag between the inflation and when we're able to increase those payments to get into the hands of Canadians, that it allows them to catch up. When it comes to our signature piece in the 21 budget, which is the childcare piece, I mean, I was in Saskatchewan yesterday, Vashi, and the average family is saving $4,000 a month per child. And that's just with the childcare fees cut in half. It's going to get better and put even more money in the pockets of Canadians as we get down to $10 a day. That's really important. And so is it when we take a look at the Canada Worker Benefit. The Canada Worker Benefit has been increased, and now a family who's using that benefit will have $2,300 more in their pockets. And so that doesn't change the price of goods at the grocery store, but it does put more money into families' pockets so that they can, balance their books at the end of the month.
My question, though, was around those measures that you talked about, for example, off the top of your answer, that you acknowledged are indexed to inflation. But like I said, inflation from last year. So the increases that Canadians are getting are very minimal compared with the increases that they are seeing at the grocery store. I take your point on daycare. However, it is not the situation that every parent in every province at this point is paying $10 a day. It's actually a very gradual process, and some parts of this province that I'm in right now, Ontario, haven't even started yet. It's coming, but it's not immediate. Your government has faced a number of questions from Canadians and the opposition about why not look at things that will help quicker in the interim, right, before inflation really starts to go down, which we know won't be for a while.
Well, we hope that
why
it
not
happens
consider
sooner.
something
Sure.
else?
Well, we did consider something else. We got very creative when it came to the climate action incentive program. So the rebate that people get off of the price on pollution, instead of that getting to Canadians once a year now, it's coming out quarterly. I know people received it in July, and I had constituents write to me and say, this is great, we like it, we needed the money, it's hitting,
But
it's
with
getting to us
respect,
now.
they're paying that money at the pump.
They're paying that money at the pump. They're getting it back, and 8 out of 10 Canadians get actually more money back from the Climate Action Incentive Program. And like here in Alberta, you pay more at the pump, you're going to get that back in your rebate, and you're going to get it back within 3 months. And so, like 3 months for a federal government, Vashi, that's lightning speed. And so we are being creative with how we get money into the pockets of Canadians. And a 3-month turnaround is very fast for government. And I hear your point. And we listen to opposition. We listen to the concerns of Canadians. And if we can do more and get money to Canadians faster, that's exactly what we will look at doing.
I mean, you could do more. You could, for example, increase the GST rebate temporarily. You could add more money to the Canada Child benefit in certain instances. There are, I mean, even the Canada Child benefit, you get about $114 extra a year right now. And you have to admit, Minister, that if you compare that to just how much we've paid extra in gas this month, or for berries, or for whatever necessities people need, it's going to add up to a lot more than $114 a year. Is there anything actively under consideration for your government right now?
So we topped up the Canada Child benefit, as you mentioned, and I mean, I'm glad you mentioned it, because in my own riding of Edmonton Centre, it's several millions of dollars a month that go into families, and that money stays here locally to support the economy. But I hear you. And look, we're open to suggestions. We're open to options. I work with the Finance Department on a regular basis. Minister Freeland and I have these conversations with our colleagues in government. And if we can accelerate how Canadians are able to get relief through this challenging inflation period, we will definitely look at that. And it's an active conversation in government in terms of how do we make sure that we can help Canadians have their backs like we did during the pandemic. And it's what we're working on in government right now.
So is there something specifically under consideration? Is there something you can tell Canadians watching tonight that they can expect as they feel the pinch of these prices? And pinch is probably really downplaying it.
Well, it's more than a pinch. We understand the pain of Canadians. It's why we have the $8.9 billion affordability plan in place. We're listening to Canadians. We're working with them. We're making sure that if there's more that we need to do heading into the fall, that we will do that. And look, I take your point and the point of Canadians that getting the payments to people quickly is what really matters, which is why the Climate Action Plan is now quarterly instead of yearly. And it's a fair comment, and it's something that we can certainly can and will continue to look at as a federal government. But at the end of the day, Vashi, we're here to support Canadians. We have this Made in Canada solution to what is a global phenomenon, and we're going to keep doing the work.
Respectfully, and I take your point that there is stuff under consideration, but the level of inflation, the level of consumer prices that has been this high has been felt for a long time. These questions have been posed to your government month after month. And you keep saying they're under consideration. You keep saying you have Canadians' backs, but you haven't moved on any of them. People who get a Canada Child, a GST rebate are still only getting $7 more.
Well, I'm going to push back gently, Vashi. The fact that we've indexed it to inflation means the money's coming. Canadians are going to see that money. They are going to see the money. It may not be in the timeline that you and I can agree on, but we have the backs of Canadians. We're going to make sure they get the money. And this is why we made sure that we had the $8.9 billion on the table, and that when it comes to OAS, GIS, the GST credit, the Canada Child benefit, those payment increases will come. And look, if there's more that we can do, then that's something that we will be happy to announce and share with Canadians this fall.
Okay, they'll come in a year. I'm out of time, unfortunately, but I do appreciate your time, Minister. Thank you.
Thanks, Vashi. All the best.
Hi, I'm Vashi Capellos, host of Power in Politics. See more of our show by subscribing to the CBC News channel or click the link for another video.